All right, let's try this again. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic wrap up to their weekend. Hope everybody had a good weekend and is ready to kick off all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed into your upcoming work week. So cheers to Mondays, right? Anyway, I want to bring you guys up to speed a little bit. First of all, I want to send a huge thank you and just total props, everything to Multiple Mopars. Please go check out his channel. If it weren't for him, we weren't able to make this that last video that I posted up available. So, already got some guys checking in. Got Fast Man checking in. What's up, Fast Man? Mark Corleone saying, "Good evening, Professor Mason with the arm flex." I like it. Good evening. So, I wanted to go over some drive shaft stuff because this is something that has been driving me absolutely batty now. Dr. Diff is in. Everybody say what's up to him. So the whole drive shaft thing, and one of the issues that I had with the whole drive shaft experiment with Revlon, for you guys that haven't seen the other video, spoiler alert, we've got the red eye drive shaft now installed in Revlon, and I can't tell you how stoked I am with how that drive shaft worked out. If you guys have Hellcats, or maybe you're just beating on a 392 really hard. Well, 392 it won't work, HP 70 and all. But if you've got a Challenger Hellcat, that red eye drive shaft, for me anyway, is the perfect compromise between long-term strength and durability and smoothness. Now, what's the issue here is the fact that the angles are all jacked up underneath these cars as far as getting the power from the transmission to the carrier bearing, and then from the carrier bearing kind of down and at an angle to the differential. It's not a straight line of sight. You've actually got, if you look underneath the car, it's a fairly straight shot from the transmission to the carrier bearing. And then if you're laying underneath the car, the shot is basically like down and to the east, so to speak. If you're looking at the back, or to the west, if you're looking at the back of the car, it kind of rocks, from your point of view, it would come down this way. Kind of some weird angles. And I think it's asking too much of a one-piece drive shaft to make that angle work. When I originally started messing with this aftermarket drive shaft thing with this car, well, let's kind of go through how many drive shafts I have installed or taken off of the car. The original drive shaft was a Wiles drive shaft. So took the stock drive shaft off, put the Wiles on, had a vibration issue. Sent the drive shaft back, got it worked up a little bit, put that back on the car. So we've got stock off, Wiles on. Wiles off, stock back on, and then got that one back, and it was stock off, Wiles back on again. So went through that whole experiment and just couldn't get it right with the two U-joints, and I always figured that there was some kind of an angle going on here. So right now we're up to 3 different times. From there, it was take that drive shaft back off, send it back, put the now new DSS drive shaft on the car, that's 4, only to have it vibrate, take it off, and then put the new style DSS drive shaft with CV joints on either ends on the car, that's 5, and now take that drive shaft off and put the red eye drive shaft in, that's 6. That's right, guys. I have technically done 6 drive shaft jobs on my own car. That is an absolute train wreck in progress. Now, why is that? Well, there's a few things going on with the car. There's the angles that the thing's trying to get to. Basically, you're asking something to operate in not a direct line of sight, single plane of access series of angles. You're actually bringing this thing down and over a little bit. So you've got something more straight on from the transmission, and then you've got something kind of off center and down with the actual diff. That's what's causing all the funkiness to go on with these cars, and it's creating a drive shaft. It's creating a pinion angle imbalance, so to speak. Never going to work with a one-piece drive shaft. at least not to the level that a two-piece will allow you to get to. So let's talk about the red-eye drive shaft. Well, first of all, it is more robust than the stock Hellcat drive shaft. It's the same drive shaft that you would find in the Demon. And quite honestly, there's a ton of Demons running around, running low 10s, high 9s with that stock drive shaft with no issues. The big issue that can come with that drive shaft is at the carrier bearing. And y'all may have seen Demonology's video where he, the carrier bearing finally failed on that car. But you have to remember that that's, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of passes on that drive shaft, plus launching it off of a trans brake with a 15-inch tire conversion, the whole bit. There's a lot more going on there. Oh, and it's making significantly more power. Eventually, something's going to fail, and it was that carrier bearing. I actually believe that the carrier bearing is serviceable, though. So, again, we're talking about a situation with a car now with this thing. I can run the car up and down the freeway without it vibrating. I also have a drive shaft that is robust enough to last, I would like to hope, at least most of the lifetime of the car long term without having any vibration issues. And again, this is where all of this came from. And after 5 or 6 times of being underneath this car, I don't want to have to do that shit again. So anyway, let me get to some of the comments here. Let's see. We got Doc Div saying, yo, B Mason, how you doing? Doing well. Let's see. Yeah, he's saying that drive shaft vibration really drove you nuts. Says my other customers also. Enough where I caution people on it. Put stress on the diff as well. And that's true, and I'm going to get to that here in a second. Gordon's checking in. What up, B? It's running smooth now. Absolutely. Got the devil horns and the shades. I dig it. Dr. Div saying on the DSS for the Rams. Yep, and it's hard on output shafts and differentials on these cars as well. Shawnee's checking in saying hello to everybody. What's up, man? Gap Tom saying I have a stock 18 Hellcat Charger on drag radials. Can I take it to the track on the stock drive shaft, or will it likely break? No, it won't likely break if you are a stock car taking your car to the drag strip on drag radials and you're not launching it on a trans brake or anything like that. It's a stock car and a stock drive shaft. You should be fine. Just don't try to launch it at like 2,000 RPM, or don't try to launch it with launch control or any of that other stuff. Just foot brake it out of the hole and you'll be fine. Now, I will caveat that statement by saying this. If you're going to be going to the track a lot, then I would highly suggest getting an aftermarket drive shaft, or obviously you're still in warranty. Keep your stock drive shaft until it breaks and have them replace it for you. There's no direct line of sight drive shaft for you guys yet, although I believe there might be some two-piece coming from DSS. I know that there are a couple of two-piece drive shafts on the marketplace right now for Challengers and Chargers. The only problem is they are obscenely expensive. They might be super strong, but the two that I know of, can't remember the names of the manufacturer off the top of my head, but you're talking $3,200 to $3,600 for just the two-piece drive shaft alone. Can't tell you that I'm all that worked up about spending that kind of money on a drive shaft. But that being said, they are out there. But in the meantime, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it unless you're taking the car to the shop or to the drag strip a lot. If you are taking it to the drag strip a lot, get it to the shop, get another drive shaft put on it. Dr. is saying, yes, that carry bearing is serviceable. I've replaced them, got to get them from the dealer. I've got the part number somewhere. I like it. X is checking in. What are your thoughts on carbon fiber drive shafts? Is it worth the money? No, I don't think that they're worth the money. And the reason why I don't think that they're worth the money is I've seen them fail too often. The weight of these vehicles does not allow for a carbon fiber drive shaft, in my opinion. I've seen where guys have had some good results with them, but I've also seen them shatter, and it depends on the conditions that you're running the vehicle in. I just can't sign off on a carbon fiber drive shaft. Long-term durability, I'm not sure about them. If you're looking to just cover a number, you'll probably maybe get there, but I'll get to that portion of the chat here in a minute. I'm just not sure you're going to gain anything with a carbon fiber drive shaft. Now, yeah, they'll tell you it's lower rotational weight, it's lower total weight and all of that, but man, you're talking about really splitting hairs here. I mean, we're talking about, half of a tenth, maybe not even that much on one of these drive shafts. Now, all that being said, We're going to find out, because this thing's going back to the drag strip this weekend. We're going to see what it's going to run. Did it lose anything by going to a stock drive shaft? Thing is I doubt it. There's too many people that have put aftermarket drive shafts in their cars and just haven't picked up anything. But that's something that the aftermarket would have you believe. But anyway, I'll get to that point. I'm going to kind of go off on that here in just a second. Sean saying, I think my drag tires will pull a 159 to 162 60 foot time. They should. And a race weight of about 4,400 pounds with me in it. How close to failure am I looking at with the stock drive shaft? I do have a rear end brace. Man, I don't think you're that close to a total failure. He's also saying I don't wheel hop the car and have lower control arms as well. I don't think you're going to see any failure. My thing is, I believe that with the drive shaft is more of a cumulative effect more than anything else. And the cars that I've seen fail, I haven't seen that many stock cars fail. I've seen modded cars fail, but those were back in, a couple of years ago when guys just weren't putting drive shafts in their cars because of vibration issues. So, or at least that's one of the reasons why they weren't putting them in the cars. But then you started hearing about some drive shafts failing and guys getting a bit paranoid and wanting to go ahead and get something a bit more robust for track use. So in the short term, I don't think you're going to run into any problems with it. Just, launching it about 1,200, 1,500 RPM and you'll be golden. This thing, I don't even launch. I never launch mine. I say never. I never try to launch mine above 1,500. I try to launch it around 14 typically. And again, we're talking about foot braking, not launching it off of a trans brake, which causes even more shock. And to that point, I'm not using launch control, which means I'm also not using torque reserve with my car, which I can program. So no. And there's just so many things here that are leading me to believe that this red-eye drive shaft is going to be a very long-term solution for my car. And again, I don't care if it loses half a tenth, to be honest with you guys. Couldn't care less. This car with the red-eye drive shaft at 100 miles an hour cruising feels like you're sitting still. Zero resonance, zero drone, zero vibration. Let's see. Is that Grossi? I hope I'm saying that right. It's cool looking name though. Saying, hey brother, make some pistol grip Rick. Oh, pistol grip Rick. Still waiting patiently for my 84 millimeter Fastman throttle body. I believe you will like it. David's checking in, saying your aftermarket drive shaft looks a lot better than the other two stock ones, even though the aftermarket is lighter. Saying it looks like beefier. Oddly enough, it is aluminum, but don't let the thickness fool you. And that's one of the issues that I have with the aftermarket shafts is they're really not any more robust than the factory stock drive shaft, with the only big difference being that, yeah, it's a thicker wall aluminum, but the diameter drives me nuts. And if you've got an aftermarket cat back in your car, there's a chance, especially if you're trying to shut the Hellcat up a little bit, because the Hellcat system really ain't much of a muffler. But if you've got some of the later cars with the with the larger, like MagnaFlow looking style mufflers on them, yeah, you can definitely run into some clearance issues, no doubt about it. Let's see. Oh, Shawnee's talking about his Fastman. Yeah, they are definitely well worth the wait. Let's see. Hothead Racing is asking, I have a great running 16 Hellcat Challenger. Very nice. Saying, I go to the track to race once or twice a year. Should I modify the car? My short answer to that is going to say, I'm going to say, depending on the modification that we're talking about, but no. If you're going to take the car to the drag strip once or twice a year, you're probably driving your car around on drag radials the way it sits now, just for safety and just the fact that you need drag radials just to get the thing to move out of its own way without lighting the tires up. Man, look, you don't have to do anything to your car ever. You'll be super stoked and super happy with that car for a long, long time without doing any modifications to it at all. Leave the gear in it, leave the tune in it stock, leave the thing stock if you're happy with it the way it sits. There are only a couple of modifications that I would ever actually suggest for the Hellcats. But pulleys, unless we're talking about idler pulleys, and even then, probably not. As far as what I would suggest, for where you're sitting right now, if you're happy with the car the way it sits, keep rocking it, man. Don't sweat doing any mods to that car. I just don't see it doing much for you if you're only taking the car every once in a while, or car to the track every once in a while. Gap Time is asking, what transmission, suspension, traction setting do you use on the drag strip? I run the car in sport mode for everything except for suspension, and I run my suspension in street mode to try to get more weight transfer. And I run traction control completely turned off. So that's how I run the car at the drag strip. Rip is checking in and saying, hey there, B, what's up, homie? Speed Freak's checking in. What's up, Mopar Master Mason? I like it. What's up, Speed Freak? Hope everything's going well for you. Let's see. Grossi's hanging out with Sean. Rip saying still at work, so I can just watch and chill. I like it. Gordon's coming in saying, I used the launch control the other night and it did much better without it. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that very much, man. I've never had any luck with the launch control on these things. I know the newer cars have a little bit more of a refined launch control, but I'm still not buying it. I'd rather launch it myself, and to be honest with you, I've had nothing but great success, and I don't need to go in there and try to have a computer do something for me that it itself isn't already very good at. It's better just to build your skill set. Grossi's saying, hey, most people don't get my name right. You nailed it first time. I like it. Dr. Div saying, pistol grip rip, you need one of B. Mason's intake manifolds of that 84 millimeter. Huge difference and well worth it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yep, I will probably start working on those here again real soon. SVT89, I just installed the DSS in my 2019 392. Loving it so far, and no vibration or noise. The funny thing is that the 392s don't seem to run into the same problem as the Hellcats. Now, well, let's talk about this for a minute, because this is something that I do want to touch upon. So I understand where a lot of guys will say, well, I put a DSS in my car, I put a QA1, or I put a Wiles in my car, and I'm not having any problems with it. I don't know what you're talking about in terms of this vibration thing. So let me tell you where all of this started from. When I first started to data log my car, I would accelerate through the gears, basically running everything up through, every gear up through about 3,000 RPM. And as you may imagine, you get to about 95 to 100 pretty quickly with these cars. And then you lay off the gas and it shuts down. It's at steady state cruising where that vibration will come into play. Most guys aren't rolling their cars on the highway above 80 miles an hour anyway. So you're never going to get the drive shaft to a place where it's going to vibrate. However, if you're taking your car to the drag strip a lot, or if you're planning on doing any half-mile events or mile events, or long road trips where you're going to be kind of in a high-speed cruise situation, 80, 85 miles an hour plus, you're going to find that you will get some vibration out of those one-piece drive shafts. Now, how much of an issue is that? Hey man, don't get me started on that, because I have no idea, but I can tell you this, any vibration is certainly bad. It wrecks bearings and causes things to just rattle loose. And of course, you don't want that going on. You never know when things are going to come loose, and you just don't know when things are going to begin to fail. So for me, I needed a solution that was going to be able to cover me for all scenarios for the car. Drag racing, road trips, half-mile events, mile events, just general smoothness, driving it, NVH issues. Look, man, driving down the road with this thing, I've got it sitting leaning up against the wall right here. The aftermarket drive shaft that I had would start to resonate at about 80 miles an hour. And with the rear seat delete in the car, you would hear it start to drone and build almost like a feedback loop in that rear seat delete. So it's just a real annoying vibration and a rattling and just a bad situation all the way around from an NVH standpoint. Now, in terms of durability, sure, it was great, and I really didn't pay much attention to the vibration when I'm at the drag strip, because I'm blowing through that 100 mile an hour, 120, 125 mile an hour zone really quickly, going through the quarter mile, and then I'm immediately off the throttle. So there wasn't like there was any big amount of time that the car was in that zone where it was vibrating, but it was still in a zone where it was vibrating, and hell, just driving the thing to the track, it would be vibrating. So I don't know, maybe I'm a bit more of a sissy when it comes to being sensitive to those types of NVH issues, that noise, vibration, and harshness, but I just couldn't stomach it. And again, huge thanks to Multiple Mopars donating the old stock Driveshaft out of his red eye to Project Revlon. Makes all the difference in the world, and it checks every happy box for me. Number one, it is smooth as silk, and again, at 100 miles an hour at cruise, the car feels like it's sitting still. It's that vibration free. It is a true Mopar part, which for me is important. I want to keep this thing as Mopar as I possibly can without having a bunch of aftermarket parts on the car. That's the way it sits right now. So that's kind of cool in and of itself. The other thing is it's easily serviced. So let me get to this. I'll get to you guys' comments here in a minute. Let me dig this thing out of my pocket. So this right here is a 16 millimeter bolt. Now, what you guys don't know or may not have seen is when I was installing these things, I actually could not get the box end of a wrench, or a socket for that matter, around these 17 millimeter bolts that are in the adapter for the rear portion on the rear diff for the drive shaft that I took out of the car. Well, why is that important? Well, several reasons. One, can't really torque them because you don't have torque wrenches that are going to help you work around this, especially in the confines of being underneath the car. You can talk about crow's feet and all that crap all you want. It ain't happening with this. Number two, you end up galling the adapter trying to, tighten this thing down to what is about 50 odd foot-pounds of torque. Three, when you go to take these damn things off, you end up rounding that sumbitch off. Look at that, isn't that cute? So just a small amount of thread locker, you can see there's nothing gooped up on there at all. Sucker rounds right off when I'm trying to take it off the car. Had two of them do that. Let me tell you how happy I was about that little design flaw. I know that the latest version of the drive shaft is not supposed to have that happen. Oh wait, yeah, it does. It just uses a smaller bolt. But still, the same principle applies. It is was a complete and total train wreck to get those two bolts out, that you can only grip one good side of that bolt to get any leverage to take the thing out. And I ended up having to go to a set of channel locks. Lucky I've got this, beefy set of channel locks that I was able to get in there. Pop that sucker down super hard. It bit like a son of a gun into that bolt. Popped them loose. Got the thing out of there. But it's just stuff like that. Not very easily serviceable. It just kind of a pain in the ass all the way around. That's the other reason why I wanted to go with a stock part. Again, home run all the way around as far as I'm concerned. Hang on, let me get with you guys real quick so I can make sure I'm not getting too far behind. Let's see, Grossi's saying, yeah, no, you're right about that. Hopefully he'll get the intake next year for a port job. Yeah, send it to me, man. Once I get up and rolling, I'll typically port those for about 3 months, and then I go radio silent on those things. So I typically will get started on those around March every year, but I may get started towards the tail end of the summer this year if I get enough guys needing intake manifolds ported. Let's see, Rick is saying, you have told me before that if I go with a smaller pulley, I should not use pump gas. My question is, how did the Demon and Red Eye do it on pump gas with higher amounts of boost? They do it, so let me just say this. When it comes to my advice on throwing more boost at these cars, I have to temper my advice with, number one, my own enthusiasm, and number two, my tendency to be a bit of a mother hen when it comes to tuning, modifications, and my understanding of what happens with fuel quality. And these are the things that when I'm giving advice, I always have to take these things into account. So how does the Demon or the Red Eye cope with the extra boost? Quite simply, they just don't have any timing in them. If you look at the tune file for even the same amount of boost that a Hellcat is making, let's say you're at max boost, peak RPM of 6,200 RPM, you'll have a non-spark modified, just a base timing number of roughly 15 degrees with the Hellcat. That's at let's say a load of 1.2, or airflow of roughly 1.2. At that same airflow rating, the Red Eye and the Demon are at like 11 degrees of timing. They come to the table with significantly less timing, even for the same amount of airflow or same amount of boost. So whether you're basing it off of load or total airflow, it doesn't matter. The way that they do it is they just run significantly less timing. Now you might say, well, it's making more boost. Yeah, but again, I'm going to say it uses less timing even for the amount of boost that you're running compared to the Hellcat. You can get away with it if you neuter timing in the tune enough to where you're not hurting anything. But here's the big thing that I want to shoot your way, my man. When tuners get a hold of Mopars, what ends up happening is that they will start to mess with it's basically the sensitivity of the knock sensors. And where the stock knock sensors are already they're paranoid. I mean, they're just looking for something to happen. So what a lot of tuners will do is they'll get in there and immediately rip 30-40% out of the knock sensors straight away. I don't like doing that. I'm at a number of like 10 to 12% is what I'll do with my own personal car, or if I'm just touching up somebody's tune. That's the number that I like to go with, only because I know what fuel quality can do, and I would rather err on the side of caution. By the way, in track testing, the stock knock sensor sensitivity values versus elevated sensor sensitivity values didn't really net any gain at the drag strip. I've tried it back to back. And I couldn't see an ET improvement by stripping more of the knock sensor sensitivity out of the car, thus rendering the knock sensors numbed enough to where I wasn't pulling any timing. By the way, guys, Hellcats will typically pull somewhere around 2.5 degrees of timing throughout the course of a pull. Right after a shift, right around peak. Not peak torque, but right around 5,500 RPM, you'll see them pull timing, and then they'll take it away as the revs increase. That's false knock. It really is, but it's not totally false knock. It's mostly false knock. And you want to hedge your bets and err on the side of caution that it's not being caused by poor fuel quality. And again, if you're running 91 octane, and just leave the knock sensors stock, I just wouldn't mess with them at all. Maybe again, give them about, 5 to 7%. Here's something to consider though. The voltage is the same for the Hellcat, the Red Eye, and the Demon. I believe that the multipliers are a little less aggressive with the Red Eye and the Demon, but maybe not by much. I've got to go back and take a look at that. But again, there's a lot of technical nuances that go into this to answer the question. It's a very simple question, but to get you the right kind of answer requires me to go a little bit more in depth than maybe I can do in a video like this. So, but anyway, in a nutshell, that's how they get away with it. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. Oh, Rip said, I know it's a silly question. No, it's not, man. Oh, wait a minute, time out. Damn, Blackbird, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Saying, hey, B, wanted to see what you think about the Trackhawk with a 285 and ID 1050s on 93. What gains should be expected? 285 ID 1050s on 93 will get you, I think, about 60 horsepower. Most of the tuners tune those, they'll downplay those a little bit based on the weight of the vehicle. So, 40 to 60, depending on the dyno that you're on. But I will say this, there's nothing creepier than being in a Trackhawk that's pulleyed and tuned when it's set up and well sorted. Those things on launch are creepy. But thank you very much for the contribution, man. And then Sean E checking in with the contribution also, saying a little donation for Advil for swapping drive shafts all the time. Thankfully, it'll be in your past now. By the way, your 8th mile an hour is very nice. Thank you very much. So just to bring you guys up to speed, let's see, how do we do here? Got some time slips from the other night. Again, this is the best one of the night. This was that 1054 at 131 miles an hour, coming up on about 104, a little bit better than 104 and a half in the 8th. And again, and yeah, that was an 016 light, by the way. Boy, getting it done. Yeah, Friday night was almost like a track. I mean, you could track rental. You could just almost go up and run whatever you wanted. The car did great. The track prep was terrible. I was shooting for a 40. And as you may imagine, it's always, if I only had better track prep. Look, everybody was running the same conditions, but the crew that went to the drag strip, a lot of us were having issues with the launch. It wasn't just me. Basically, the whole crew was having an issue with that. So, doesn't matter though, the car still went 1054s. We're still talking about stock timing, stock boost, with me throwing just a little bit of fuel at it just to be on the safe side. So, anyway, man, but thank you very much. I appreciate the contribution to the cause. We got one more. Ripped is in with the $2 contribution, man. I appreciate that, buddy. Saying just a little towards the cause, man. I like it. Keeping me hydrated this evening. Actually, got a bottle of water over there too. Let's see. Let me get back to the where I was here. Let's see. Speed Freak saying supercharger bearing noise. Are some of the superchargers slightly louder than others, or should there be no noise at idle? No, you'll notice a little bit of noise. All superchargers make some noise, but what you're trying to avoid is something that sounds like rocks in there. You know, something that doesn't sound right. You'll have a little bit of a whine at idle, but something that sounds like something that's almost like rocks in a hollow jar almost, or a hollow metal jar. That's what you're looking to not have. You start hearing something way out of the norm, that's when you're going to want to drag that thing back to the dealership. But this one has always been a little bit noisy, and it does great. Scat Speed saying, what is up? B Mason, what's up, Scat Speed? Scat saying, I've been gone for a minute. Yeah, you have. Let's see. R. Grossi saying she's a 2017 392 TA 6B with 1,670 miles on her. Yeah, she's a real pretty garage queen, owned by an old drag racer. Hey, man, listen, I'm right there with you. It doesn't hurt to keep them nice and pretty. And by the way, yes, I know she's filthy, but for good reason. I did get her out in the rain today, by the way, checking that new Driveshaft out, courtesy of Multiple Mopars. And she is in the rain on drag radials at 100 miles an hour, as smooth as you could possibly imagine it to be. Shawnee's just saying, I love the 392 TA cars. They are very nice. There was actually one at the drag strip this past evening. Grossi's saying, I'll get a B Mason intake for sure. Well, thank you very much, man. Appreciate that. King's asking, question, Jeep SRT or Durango SRT? Which do you think would have more fun? Which do I think I would have more fun in? Man, I got to go with the Durango on this, only because it's bigger and it's a bit sillier to have a Durango. The Jeep's been out for a while. Everybody's pretty familiar with the Jeep, but I like the Durango mainly because it's more utilitarian than the Jeep is. And you know, all around, I just think it's a more fun vehicle than the Jeep. The Jeep's nice, it's tight. It's a little bit too much BMW X5 for me. I like something a little bit more station wagony, and that's what the Durango seems to give, in my opinion. Just passing up Blackbird, man. Thanks again, man. I do appreciate that. Oh, Grossi's saying his car is actually one of the 2 Canadian-built white knuckle TAs. Man, I like it. SVT89 saying that he doesn't notice that speeds over 100 miles an hour. I'll be going to the track in Ennis on the 30th. I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah, definitely let us know how it goes on that. Like I said, and to be honest with you guys, look, man, not all cars run into this type of a problem, or at least not all owners have perceived this vibration as a problem. In my situation, yeah, I kind of had to, check myself a little bit initially. I was saying, man, am I being oversensitive? Is this something that, am I being a little bitch about this? But the reality is no, and I can't stand NVH stuff. I just know that can cause mechanical failure later on down the line. And so, again, going with a smoother, a stock drive shaft in that red eye, it seemed like the wise choice moving forward. Let's see. Bad Henry saying, Mopar Whisper was good, brother. I like it. Again, Shawnee, thank you very much, brother. Shawnee saying, sounds like a knuckle buster nightmare swapping all those drive shafts. Man, luckily the mitts were okay. The only issue that I had was bouncing that freaking 17 millimeter wrench off of my forehead. Luckily, I don't have the two dots up here anymore, but when that son of a bitch bounced off my forehead, it went dang, and it rang before it even hit the ground. That's how hard it hit my head. So that's another reason why I haven't been altogether, I don't know, how do you put it, enamored with the idea of having to go back underneath the car. But again, if I did have to, for any reason, I can tell you that working with the stock drive shaft is far and away preferable to trying to work with one of these aftermarket drive shafts that uses adapters. Man, look, if you're looking at a drive shaft for your car, just stay the hell away from anything with adapters. And if possible, well, I'll just leave it at that. Stay away from anything with adapters for sure. Let's see. David is asking, how much faster is a Hellcat versus a stock 392? It depends on what your definition of fast is. In other words, what's the metric that you're looking for? In terms of 0 to... Okay, when we talk about stock, I want to make this clear. We're talking about this car on drag radials versus a 392 on drag radials, because let's be real, you ain't doing nothing fast, or at least quickly, with one of these cars, 392 or Hellcat, unless you've got a tire underneath it, right? Okay, so it depends on who's driving the car, but my experience with me driving, I can typically get identical 0 to 60 times with a stock Hellcat and a stock Scat Pack or SRT 392. Again, we're talking 8-speed automatic to 8-speed automatic, stock gear to stock gear. In the 8th mile, a 392 in decent conditions will run stock, say 780s in the 8th. These things will run 720s. 730s, give or take. But I'm trying to excuse me. Whoa, about to knock myself out. In the quarter mile, and again, this is with somebody that knows how to drive the things. A Scat Pack in good air will run 1240, 1230, whereas a Hellcat will run 1120s, 1130s. So hopefully that gives you an idea as far as the performance delta between the two cars. It's significant, but I'm going to caution that statement of, I'm going to couch that statement of significance by saying that the car itself doesn't feel markedly different. I'm talking about the 392, doesn't feel markedly different than the Hellcat unless you're really into the throttle with the Hellcat. And that's when you can really tell the difference from a driver's point of view. Let's see. Luke's hanging out with Sean right now. Let's see. Sean, he's saying 6-speed Hellcat versus an auto 392 would be a decent race on the street. That might not go very well for the Hellcat. Dr. Jeff saying, talking about knock sensors, as you know, I've played hell with mine pulling it wide open throttle. My passes yesterday ran 1287 at 106 full weight and fuel on the end. Let's see. On the end of the run, it did it again, but IAT was 170. Yeah, got to check the IATs, man. They're going to go nuts on IAT. You're going to be in the hot spark modifier big time on that one. So you can go into that spark modifier and work with that. You can go into minimum spark and also check it up a little bit in your minimum spark tables as well. Don't mess with the calibrated temperatures. It won't do you any good. Just make the adjustments in the table itself. Let's see. Oh, wait a second. Timeout. Fastman, damn, thank you very much. Say a little something for the cause and answering my Demon and Red Eye questions on your Driveshaft video. Man, cool. Thank you very much, man. I truly do appreciate that, man. It's awesome of you. Dude, thank you very much. Okay, getting back to Doc Div saying, I was still very happy, 6 PSI full weight, no prep on radials. Yeah, 6 PSI is nothing in terms of boost, man. That's not even getting it woken up yet. But we do need to take a look at that IAT, and I'm telling you, that is going to scald you if your IATs are that high. Saying the new stall works great, though. Very good. Scat Speed got the thumbs up. I love it. Argosi's saying, nice ET, bro. She's loving that 309 diff. Missed a show or two, but I'll catch up. Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, check out. I mean, did I post up any ride-alongs? I might post up a ride-along. I think I had a couple from the other night. I tried to get you guys more. The problem was, again, track prep was god-awful, and again, all of us were having issues. It was a spin fest the entire time we were there. Rip saying, going back to superchargers making noise. My 6.1 with the straight cut gear Pro Charger definitely sounds like rocks in a blender. Better believe it. I hate having to explain it to people every time that it's not broken. Dude, the old Pro Chargers, any of the straight cut stuff, but if you've ever been around one of the old Pro Chargers, they make a racket, but the other one that makes a racket are the old Paxton ball drive superchargers. Those things really make a mess. Let's see. Oh, Doc Div saying, to clarify, that was the only pass I was able to make. That was the shakedown, so I was happy with. Wish I had more time. Track prep was great. Local track isn't all that great here. Yeah, it's been, man, I don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened. They had at Royal Purple, at Houston Raceway Park, they had a supercar versus domestic shootout. It was some kind of I guess a local, I don't know if it was a call-out thing or what. They had a lot of guys on street tires, and they annihilated the track. They just tore it completely up. So, yeah, that'll happen. You know, I can't blame the track per se, but it would definitely take quite a bit of work to get that track back where it needs to be. They'll have it there by next week for sure, though. Dr. Dips hollering out at King's Eye about a Durango that he built for a buddy of his that has a rear-mounted turbo in it. It's very fast and such a fun vehicle, and the sound that comes out of the back is addicting. I bet it is. Fastman, oh, here's Fastman checking in. Man, I appreciate that again. Thank you so much. Glad that video worked for you, brother. Dr. Div saying, you need to just come and use the lift at the new shop next time. To hell with the wrenches in the skull. Man, look, I don't think if the car would have been on a service lift, it wouldn't have made any difference. It was the angle that I had underneath it, and it actually happened when I was tightening it. What happened is the wrench, from your point of view, it came up, but like here's the adapter right here. You can't get the box end around it. So when the wrench came up, it basically, I was putting a bunch of pressure on it, and it popped off, and it just spun around. So if you can imagine, you're working on it like this, and the wrench just goes whack like this, just spun right around and slingshotted right into my forehead. That was pretty cool. Let's see. Look at me too saying, hello, Mr. Mason. I'll be doing a cam swap and an MDS delete this winter on my 5.7. What are your thoughts on swapping my heads for Livernois heads? Livernois a pretty good head. Should I expect big gains with a swap like this? You'll get good gains with a swap like that. Depends on the cam, of course. Don't try to go too aggressive with the 5.7. Again, you've got a heavy vehicle that you need to move. Partial throttle responsiveness does suffer with some of those camshafts, so be on the lookout for that. But at any rate, yeah, you'll definitely pick up some power. Intake manifold work is going to be a big one for you. You're going to need a bigger throttle body. Clean those runners up. to complement those heads should you decide to go along with those heads. Long tube headers, cat back, and all that needs to be mandatory as well. But you'll get decent gains, and the car will be a lot of fun to drive for sure. David saying, I was thinking about getting an 03 Dodge Viper. What's your opinion? Well, you guys know that I love Vipers, and if you're in the market for one, 03s are good. Really, all of them are good. There's definite differences between the Gen 3, the Gen 4, and the Gen 5. But if you can pick up an 03 on a good deal, man, I say go for it. Vipers are fun, but just know this going into it. They're not as precise as a Corvette. They're mushy in terms of handling. You just need to know some of this stuff before you get the car. The gearing is the gearing in a Viper. You almost think it's more for fuel economy. It needs a more aggressive gear. In my opinion, it would be safer with a 354 gear. That 308 gear that they come with, once the tires break loose, you've got so much torque that they just light up. And that's not a good thing. You want to have a little bit of modulation ability with that, and the 354 gear will get you that. So I say throw a gear in it and call it good. Oh, Dr. Div saying, I'll send you the log if you want. Yes, send me the log on that, please. Said, I need a better intercooler. I'd love to come up with a liquid-to-air intercooler. Probably will help. Let's see. Gordon saying, definitely had fun at Baytown the other night. I think I'll be going there versus HMP now. Man, I tell you what, I'm just not an 8th mile guy, but good hanging out for sure. There's parts of 8th mile that I like and parts of 8th mile that I don't. And especially when I'm data logging, I have to have a quarter mile to where I can leg the car out and have it under a very high load for a long period of time, so I can watch knock retard and that's the knock retard and fuel air mixture, make sure that looks good, and also check out my injector duty cycle in high load, long duration situations. But I don't know, I'm more of a quarter mile guy at heart, but yeah, I get it for sure. I tell you what, I like watching 8th mile, I like running quarter mile. Let's see, Riv saying, would I gained a good amount of time if I got an ice box in the back of my Hellcat? Still stock power, or should I think about going with methanol? No, and hell no. Okay, so here's the thing. So it depends on what you're doing with the car, brother. If you're doing half-mile and mile events, then yeah, throw an ice tank in the back of the car. That can actually save you if you're doing long distance, high load, high mile per hour runs with the car. But just know that you're going to have to be able to drain that thing potentially after one, at the most 2 passes. They're a little bit too time consuming, and they're a little bit too heavy. It's just the weight penalty is not worth it for me unless you're doing long distance stuff, and then the weight literally does not matter. Methanol on a stock car, that's the next question. Man, no, you don't need it. Believe me when I tell you, I've run my car piping hot at the drag strip. I've run it after a long cool down, and the difference, no kidding, the difference is about 1/2 tenth. That's it. Mile an hour may come down a little bit, but not by a ton. So I would suggest not spending the money, save the money for something else. Save the money for tires. Save the money up for a drag pack. Save the money up for something else, but trust me, it is better used elsewhere. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you're throwing pulleys at the car, you live in an area where race gas is hard to get your hands on, and you don't want to run it on E85 because of, well, either reasons, E85 reasons, then in that case, yeah, methanol. But at that point, you're using methanol as a Band-Aid because you don't have the fuel and you don't have the octane. I like seeing methanol used as to cool the inlet charge, but too many guys use it as a secondary source of octane, and I'm just not a big fan of that. Plenty of guys will argue that point. Their arguments are valid, but in this case, I feel like I don't want to utilize methanol as a secondary source of octane. that tells me that I don't have the right fuel in the car to begin with. Let's see. Luke is saying that his truck has no balls. Even when I stomp on the gas, it surges and I can't burn rubber. Is there anything, small mods I can do to make it better? In that case, I would say tune, driver command, torque, would be, actually, if it's already not lighting them up, it'd be kind of useless. But yeah, get a tune on that thing and see if that helps you at all. Blackbird's, asking, so you think around 60 horsepower, is that at the wheels? Yes, it is. That is at the wheels. Let's see. David's checking in saying thank you. Thank you very much. SRT Cat saying, what's up, bro? What's up, SRT? Saying, so you don't recommend modifying the Hellcat on 91 octane? Not really, man. I live in California. I was thinking 285, 10% lower, and tune on 91 octane. More, let's see, more advice on that would be appreciated. Okay, my man, no. You're not going to do that to your car, brother. Sorry. Not a 10 lower, not a 285, and certainly not both on 91 octane. That combination is reserved specifically for E85 and race gas applications only. I don't care what anybody has told you, that will not work on 91 octane. And here's the thing, even if you neuter the timing, you're still going to have to deal with 91 octane, and it's pre-ignition, not what happens after the spark plug lights off your mixture. It's the pre-ignition. It's what happens before your spark plug lights the mixture. That's what you're trying to avoid. And it's not high-speed spark knock, it's low-speed spark knock on tip-in that can cause a problem for you. So, yeah, no. I mean, a 285 upper on 91 is a stretch. I mean, I don't even know if I would sign off on that. It's just too easy to get good results out of these cars without resorting to timing changes and fueling changes. You can make some changes in the trans tune that make the car feel so much better to drive without affecting actual horsepower output. Stick with those mods, you'll be a whole lot happier in the long run. Trust me on this. But no on that pulley combination on your car. Let's see. Luke's saying trying to make the Ford great even more great. Let's see. AZ Independent saying cool channel. I love the Mopar content. Thank you. Let's see. Let's see. Sean's checking in saying I'm thinking about Innovators West lower in the spring, mild tune, 93 octane, and maybe a couple of gallons, 100 for track use. I've decided to take the less is more approach as well. Guys, let me just say this. You know, I know that I can be a bit of a nanny when it comes to modifying Hellcats or any car for that matter that's already got a supercharger on it. At least with these American muscle cars, some of the turbo stuff you can get away with a lot more. Obviously, diesel is its own thing, but look, here's the thing, guys. What I don't want to have happen is the things that I've seen happen with my experience with these cars, and that is that guys get it in their head that they can get away with more than they really can. And the problem with that mentality is that it's true for a very small amount of time. And what I mean by that is throwing more boost at the car and trying to get away with making just a little bit more power on 93 octane. It's a fun fantasy, but after about a gain of about 60 horsepower to the rear wheels, you are really knocking on the door of some potential issues depending on fuel quality. And most of that has to do with the tune itself. It's not the fueling, it's not the timing, it's everything else that has to do with that tune. We're talking spark modifiers here, not anything else other than spark modifiers. That includes knock sensor settings that other tuners will go in and fool with, and they're messing with something that if they just left it stock or a little bit more aggressive than stock, say 15% less sensitivity on the knock sensors as opposed to 40%. on the Hellcat. If you were to take that approach, you may save an engine, as opposed to trying to eke every last bit of horsepower out of the thing on that fuel only to have it let go. I'll tell you guys something else too. So talking about horsepower for a minute, a garden variety Red Eye or Demon in 800 horse mode makes 650 horsepower to the rear wheels on the Mustang dyno. Typical Hellcats make 585, 595 with the same amount of cool down time allotted for. So if you're playing with the math, that's about 60 odd horsepower difference. There's not a huge difference to the rear wheels when you talk percentages here between the two cars, even though their ratings are different. But even on the 840 horse tune, on race gas, there's not that much more power being made to the rear wheels with the Demon versus a stock Hellcat. You're talking 665, maybe 670 on a Mustang dyno versus say 595. So we're only talking about 75 odd horsepower here to the rear wheels. The point of all of this is it does not make a lot of sense to try to chase every horsepower when what has been proven already to work doesn't require the amount of horsepower that you're trying to chase down. And you're not overextending the capabilities of that 93 octane or 91 octane. And again, guys, I've got to go back to the weight of the vehicle. The weight of the vehicle obviously creates load. It lengthens dwell time for any specific load amount that the car is experiencing versus the car weighing less or any other lighter weight platform. These are the things that cause engines to fail. These are the types of things that cause guys to want to get rid of their cars sooner than later. So again, not to belay the point, but hopefully that helps you out. Midwest Mopar saying, how's it going tonight? It's already getting cold here. It's in the 60s. I want to move to Houston. Yeah, I need to come visit. It is still 80 something degrees, all the humidity, 100% and then some. Rip saying, I think I'm just going to go with a lower set, lower SRT cat. Absolutely. Dr. Div saying, Luke Richardson, my shop specializes in Hemi-powered vehicles, especially the Rams and Durangos and Jeeps. Saying, give us a call. Absolutely. Holler at him. Shawnee is saying, I'm still waiting for the mailman to show up with my super secret 309 mod. I like it. Oh yeah, Rip is saying, it seems like there's not much I can do here in California without switching to race fuel or to E85. That is 100% accurate, my friend, unfortunately. But that's the thing. Even on 93, I don't like trying to throw the wood at anything. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can get away with 285, but a 295 is a little bit safer. Just, you know, not trying to throw every last degree of timing at the car. It just doesn't matter. In the real world, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in terms of the power output and the performance that power would give you. Let's see. Kyle's checking in saying, what's up, B? What's up, man? Saying 2019 Scat Pack, thinking going with a Red Eye hood and airbox. Will I need a tune? No, you will not need a tune. And you will not need to do any other modifications because your car does not have that ridiculous crankcase monitor, and it also doesn't have a, well, it doesn't have that, so you're good to go. Just let it ride, and you're good. Will not need anything to put that in the car. Philip saying, hey B, should I expect extra road and fuel pump noise with the Mopar rear seat delete? Yeah, you'll get a little bit. Just need to know if I need to crank up the radio. Just crank up the radio, brother. Or just listen to all them sweet Mopars coming out from the back of that car. You'll be a lot happier, I think, with that option. Whoa, hey, R. Grossi, man. Or Grossi saying, damn, 2015, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. It's the year of my car, man. That's very sweet. Thank you for the contribution to the cause, man. I truly appreciate that. That's awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you very much for the contribution, my man. We get back to my spot here. Midwest Mopar saying, how was your white 392 so fast? It was just a tune, cat delete, and drag radials. That's correct. Is there anything keeping you from going with long tubes? Yes. So the problem with long tubes on a 392, or really even with the Hellcat for that matter, but more so with the 392, is the lobe separation angle. The problem with the lobe separation angle on a 392 is that it is very wide, and because it's very wide, you just don't get the scavenging effect that you would with either a tighter lobe separation angle or the same lobe separation angle with a little bit more duration. You're just not going to get any real benefit from long tubes. In fact, it can hurt you at higher RPMs to have a set of long tubes on the car. But where they do help is in partial throttle acceleration areas. Some guys have said they even got a little bit better fuel economy with the long tubes. And that would make sense because at lower RPM, just in time, actual tick-tock time, you do have more time for duration, or for scavenging to take place. So in that respect, long tubes do help, but in terms of at the drag strip, they don't really help that much, and that's why I never put them on my car. Let's see, Rip's saying I heard my fuel pump pretty bad with the rear seat delete, but that was in my 6.1 with an upgraded pump. Yeah, upgraded stuff makes a lot of noise. Dimitri's saying, especially when the fuel pump booster kicked in. Yep. David is asking, are superchargers bad for the engine in the long run? Not at all. Not if the car is built and tuned around the supercharger. Not at all. I mean, if power adders were an issue for engines in general, you wouldn't see power adders on big rigs. Those things live and die by the performance of a turbocharger. So no, long term, no issues whatsoever. If the vehicle is built around the supercharger, if it's tuned around the supercharger, you won't have any issues whatsoever. However, if it's not built around the supercharger, or the tune is too aggressive, or the fuel quality is poor, all of those can add up to exacerbate even small problems and turn them into major nightmares. Rip's saying, very nice, Gracie. Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. Thanks again, Gracie. That's awesome of you. Gracie's saying, hey, bro, get her a great wash and dry on me. You're such a big help. Much appreciated, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you know what? I will, because she deserves it too. She has been a trooper throughout all of this. Out in the rain, doing that vibration testing. And again, big shout out to Multiple Mopars on that Driveshaft. Y'all check out his channel. He's got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. So can't wait for y'all to see what he's got going on. And for you guys that are wondering about how well Nitto Tri-5Rs do in the rain, she was out running around triple-digit speeds, no issues on the Nitto Tri-5Rs in the rain. So thumbs up. And that was at cruise too. But thank you again, Gracie. I appreciate that. SRT Cat is asking, can we use 100 octane in a stock Hellcat with no tune? Yes, you can, and you will love it. Don't try to cheat it up to 104. The cars don't like 104. Think of 100 octane as your max cap for that octane, and you will be in very good shape. Jose Padilla is asking, how do I put a trans brake on my red eye, and is it worth it? There might be something locked in the the PCM. You might be able to actually extract that. I wonder if Z Automotive might be working on that. I'm not sure, but long story short, don't worry about putting a trans brake in that thing. You're probably going to be better off foot braking it. Most guys, unless you've got a 15-inch conversion and you've taken weight out of the car, foot braking will actually yield better results. Now, if you've got a rear tire that can actually absorb the shock and you've got some weight reduction working with your car as well, then that trans brake can help. But just know that you are drastically reducing the life of drive shaft components and rear end components, or at least you can be. I'm not going to say that you are, putting anything in peril, because obviously the Demon seems to do just fine with those components. But I would say that I would shy away from worrying too much about having a trans brake in the car. I just don't see it being that much of an advantage. Rift is asking if I throw race fuel in my stock Hellcat when I go to the track, and it definitely helps a bit. I'm guessing to help it not pull timing. That's the main thing. It's really not so much that it'll help it not pull timing. Well, in a way it is. It's for short-term knock retard. You just might not see the short-term knock retard there. But my car loves 100 octane. It just, even when the car was not pulling any timing, when I had 100 octane in it, the car, when my sensitivity on the knock sensors was a little bit higher than what it is now, the car just seemed to run a little bit better on 100 octane. So, I don't know. Go figure. Man, it is hot as hell out here. Saying, although it is $10 a gallon here. Yeah, no kidding. Rip is saying, by the way, I got a wicker bill for my Hellcat. How much would that hurt me in the quarter mile? Not by a whole lot. It's not. I don't think you're going to be going fast enough at 130 to really take advantage of that wicker bill, or to see any major detriment. I wouldn't think. Let's see. Doc Div saying, I put 10 gallons of X85 in mine yesterday at the track, $117.90. Yeah, that's a chunk of change, for sure. So getting back to the drive shaft thing, guys, I got to looking at what I was going to be able to, really get out of this whole drive shaft experimentation thing. And the main thing I'm able to tell you guys straight away is, if you're on the fence about getting a drive shaft for your car, and this kind of goes back to a question that we had a little bit earlier, one of the things I'll tell you is, if you're taking your car to the drag strip regularly, and what I mean by regularly is, once a month or more, maybe even once every other month, maybe consider getting a drive shaft. Especially if you're not daily driving the car. But if you're daily driving the car, and really you only go to the track maybe 4 or 5 times a year, maybe 6, 7 times a year, yeah, I probably wouldn't go with a drive shaft. Only because I don't know that you're going to get a whole lot out of the drive shaft in terms of actual performance, and the risk that you're taking in terms of just the NVH thing, possibly getting on your nerves, is pretty real. Plus, look at it like this, guys. Unless you're doing the work yourself, you're going to be paying a shop for all of these headaches. And for the 5 or 6 times, we counted them down earlier. I tried to purge my memory of that, but let's say for the 5 times I've done this job on my Hellcat, I'm glad that I'm not paying somebody else to do the work for me. With me doing all of my own work, or at least a lot of my own work, with help from my friends, of course, I don't see that sting in the pocketbook, but I do feel it in terms of time. And this stuff can end up owning you in terms of time, especially when you run into an NVH issue that's making you absolutely crazy. So, I have a hard time saying that I would ever recommend an aftermarket drive shaft. Again, unless you are taking your car to the track a lot. Let's see. And then David saying, looks like your aftermarket would be more reliable. Man, it hasn't proven to be. That's the thing. In some areas, in terms of just straight up durability, like is it an anvil or is it not an anvil type of a question? Yeah, maybe. But, well, let's dissect that a little bit. So, first of all, if we're talking about a drive shaft that now has an imbalance because of a driveline angle situation, that imbalance is going to cause drastically reduced life for either the U-joint or for the CV joints that are associated with that shaft. It's also going to cause havoc on bearings, tail shaft bearings, and on your pinion bearing in the rear diff. That's not reliability. That's unreliability just waiting to happen. Not to mention the fact that it's out of sync. That takes power. It sucks power out of the powertrain anytime anything is imbalanced. So between So all that being said, yes, from just a functionability standpoint, it may technically be more durable, but in a dynamic state, the state that it only matters for the drive shaft to be in and performing well, everything about that aspect of the drive shaft is less than the stock shaft in terms of smoothness, noise, vibration, harshness, durability. So at that point, you've got to give it to the more robust part. And again, that leads me to something else too. And one of the reasons why I did this, kind of getting back onto my soapbox here, all of the claims that these aftermarket drive shaft companies have that basically go like this. With our drive shaft, your 60-foot times will be better. With our drive shafts, you will be quicker. Our drive shafts are more durable. Our drive shafts are whatever. So far as I can tell, those claims have been a bunch of snake oil. And to be honest with you, it's almost fraudulent at this point. I mean, you're definitely potentially not being sold the right set of, right bill of goods here. But the other thing is this, I don't understand, and this is not a knock on any company that's making drive shafts. It's just an observation. Was it ever part of, I don't know, the research and development process to take these cars and drive them at varying speeds to figure out, I don't know, if there was going to be a problem? Because what seems to happen is the manufacturers will hang on the fact that their shafts are balanced to some RPM. Well, that's great, but that doesn't matter when it's on your shaft balancing machine. Couldn't care less about that. It needs to be in a situation where it's a dynamic situation. It's in the car. It doesn't vibrate when it's in the car. How about just that? That's when it becomes more important. To me, I feel like I'm just not seeing that. I see manufacturers sending parts out into the world and relying on a certain maybe percentage of people to send them back, but for the majority of their shafts to obviously find a home and never have to come back. So it's just really unnerving, and it's really annoying when when you start having these types of issues. You just wonder, manufacturing, in the manufacture of these shafts, is anybody paying attention? Is anybody looking to see if they actually work? And that's been the biggest issue. And just because the car moves doesn't mean that it's an acceptable result. It has to have the same NVH qualities or something unbelievably similar to the stock shaft, or it's a failure. And I'm surprised more people don't complain. But again, Hellcats being what they are, I don't know. It just drives me a little bit nuts having to do this so many times. I'm not getting paid to take these things back on and off the car. I'm having to, either pay for shipping and then wait to be reimbursed or something like that. It's taking time out of my life. Certainly not a lot of fun. So again, 5 drive shaft installs. I'll never get that time back in my life, no matter what. So anyway, that's why we're where we're at. Yeah, that's why we are where we are now. Let's see. Rip is saying, I got the DSS one-piece aluminum drive shaft just for future proofing it and to be safe. That's a good point. I think I was talked into it by all the videos and stuff that I read. Yeah, and you're going to be, it's like the fear factor, right? It's pandering to the fear and pandering to the number of failures, although the percentage may be low. It's using that fear tactic to sell you apart. And, I bought into it as well. But then again, I had seen shafts fail, but not many, a couple, and those were in higher horsepower cars. I ran my stock drive shaft up to the point where I felt like, I'm taking this thing to the track a lot. Maybe I better do something about this. And so began my journey through the forest of drive shafts here that has led us to where we are now. Which, by the way, I'm glad I did that, because I feel like now I've got the perfect setup in my car. And again, just for the sake of argument, let's say that the aftermarket lighter weight drive shaft gets you half a tenth. And we're going to find out this Friday, weather permitting. But let's just say that it gets you half a tenth. Guys, I will cough up half a tenth if it means that my car is going to be smoother. If my wife and I want to take this thing on a road trip, I don't have to worry about any vibration or any resonance or anything like that. We can just hop in the car, point it in a direction, and take off. I'll be stoked about that. Also, knowing that that smoothness means that I'm not putting extra stress on pinion bearings or tail shaft bearings or anything else in the drive line, much less those components. Yeah, I'll take that over half a tenth, but you can't even perceive anyway. So, yeah, for sure. Stick with what I've got now. I mean, it got us where we are now. And again, you know, Molten Mopars, again, I got to thank you, man. Big thank you to him. And go check out his channel, Molten Mopars on YouTube. Dr. Div is saying, and to replace those pinion bearings is about $800 to $1,000 job. Only replacing bearings. Typically, they need gears also because you're only allowed 3 thousandths of wiggle room. That's nice. David saying same claims as that cold air intake guys make. Yeah, pretty much. Cold air intake is another area where yeah, this part will get you so much power. Yeah. Okay. Well, if it gets you so much power, why did the car go any quicker? You ever wonder that? Anyway, same type of an idea. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Sean's saying, so maybe I should wait to put a one piece in my Hellcat until an aftermarket two piece comes out. I don't like vibration either, but you know I'm going to race a fair amount. You know, in the meantime, it might not be a bad idea just to get you to that point. You know, we can talk later about that. I will be getting that other one piece in, the latest edition from DSS. That should be coming in here in probably the next couple of weeks. But, you know, and it might end up working out to be the next best thing since sliced bread. But, you know, I may keep it as a spare, or I may, you know, whatever with that thing. All I can tell you is if you're sensitive to NVH, then get ready, because it's about to head your way, potentially. Rip is saying, I've seen people break their drive shafts on stock Hellcats with drag pack setups, though. And Shawnee's saying that's what he's afraid of. You know, I've seen it, but I've also seen it happen on guys' cars that were modded. I've seen guys run stock drive shafts and never once have a problem with them. So I don't know. I know that the latest version of the Hellcat drive shaft is better than the 2015s. So figure 2018 and up, you're going to be in pretty good shape there in terms of just having a strong drive shaft. But the earlier 2015s, I have seen guys run into problems with them. The thing is, though, a lot of times that was also an issue with wheel hop. So, you know, they're on a prep drag strip, but on drag radials, and they get into a real bad series of wheel hop, and that would twist the drive shaft. Drag pack type of a setup, same thing, just not really good prep. Launch it 5 or 6 times really hard. It's like I say, it's more of a cumulative thing. So anyway, Dr. 440, what's everyone's current quarter ETs? Right now in the heat, I'm running 1050s, low 1060s. Let's see, Rip says, that's why I went with the DSS one piece, just so I can feel like I have peace of mind. Absolutely. If you've got it back there, you do have peace of mind that your drive shaft won't be the issue. The Wolf is saying 100%. If I wanted a harsh POS race car, I'd buy a harsh old POS race car. And there's a lot of people saying that too. And you know, I got to be honest with you guys. You know, we're talking about a Hellcat here. And yeah, I take my car to the drag strip a lot, but there's a lot of guys taking their cars, you know, red eyes and demons to the drag strip. And this is what I was seeing. Plenty of guys on stock drive shafts not having any problems. That's why, you know, I was kind of looking to go in this direction. But I know that I'm a unique case as well. And, you know, a lot of guys aren't going to have that type of an opportunity. And for them, the one piece is the only way to go, the same way that it was for me. And I got to tell you, you know, I would much rather have the peace of mind of having a one piece in the car than running the stock drive shaft. Just know that you are going to have the potential. And it's not just the potential. It's a very, very real possibility that you're going to have issues with vibration. So just know that coming into it. You know, if somebody comes out with a two-piece later, get that one then. But if you want to take your car to the drag strip, get the better shaft now. Think of it as a cost of doing business. Rip saying he's running 1090s is his fastest. 1090s is awesome. Shawnee has run a 1088 at 127. I have seen that time slip. But he is chopping weight, so we'll have to see how well he does. Let's see. Skip some of the chat here. Hang on just a second. Shawnee says he's looking for 10.6s this Wednesday. You'll get it in that area, bro. Trust me, especially that weight reduction. Let's see. Dr. 440 is giving Shawnee some encouragement, saying, go for it. Hopefully you will reach it. Better air does help for sure. Absolutely it does. David's asking, do a lot of guys try to race you when you're out on the highway? I get a lot of VWs and Ford Fusion guys trying to beat my Hemi. Yeah, get used to that, by the way. They just want to see you run, though. Dr. Div's checking in. 1287 at 106 and a 6,000-pound crew cab on 6 pounds of boost. And then Ripped is saying mostly Camaros try to race me. The ESRT saying, what up, B? What up, D? Greg saying, with all the drive shaft talk, no mention of the Hellcat rear diff brace. Is that needed? I'll tell you what, I run one. I run the Performance Extreme, not the two-piece with the other bushing or any of that, just the beefier version of the normal rear diff brace. This question came up at the track this Friday, and here's my answer to that. I think that they help, although I don't know how. I will say that I think that they do help. One of the issues with the stock diff is that you don't have a lot of bushing material on the ears, so to speak, of the diff, but you do have a large bushing right in the center of the diff where it mounts to the actual cradle itself. I think that adds a little bit of weird deflection going on in there, and that diff brace just makes it a little bit more solid. I think that it helps. I don't know by how much, but I do think that it helps. And the other thing, you know, they say that you can feel a difference. I'm going to disagree with that, but I'm also going to turn that on its head. When I took my diff brace off, I could tell that the brace was off, but I didn't really notice a big difference when the brace went on. Does that make any sense? So at any rate, yeah, I do think that they help. By how much, I'm not really sure. And yeah, I can tell when it's unbolted from the car. But honestly, in terms of actually holding things together, yeah, I think that for me, it just does better in holding it in place. I think it's better for the diff, and I also think it's better for the drive shaft. Dr. 440 saying, the reality of it is, when you're making that kind of power, stuff will break. And that's probably the best way that you can put it. Absolutely. And then Rift saying, I did get the diff brace. Absolutely. Yeah, diff brace for sure. I agree with Rift on that one. Let's see. Dr. Diff and... Let's see. Dr. Diff and Doc are having a chat. The doctors are talking. They're collaborating. Let's see. Scott's asking, do you need a drive shaft loop for protection? Man, I don't know. I would say not necessarily needed, but never a bad idea. I would probably should put one on my car just because it's always at the drag strip. Doc 440 saying killer time there. Let's see. Dimitri's saying it seems like my differential brace helped with wheel hop. I think mine did too. I think it helps a little bit. I don't want to say that it cures it because it clearly doesn't, but you know, and tire pressures can have a big role in that as well. But I will say that I think it does help, and because it's part of a greater system, I would say that it's worth the investment to run that brace on the car. And then Rip is saying, I don't know that for sure, though, talking about the wheel hop. And then it says, it does feel a bit more playing with it on, but it might be the placebo effect. See, I'm kind of right there with you too, man. I don't know that I can say that it doesn't help, but I mean, I can definitely tell when I unbolt it, you know, before when I had unbolted the cradle bolts, to see if I was running into an issue with pinion angle with my, the second time I went through that Wiles drive shaft. And obviously it didn't make any difference. And I was thinking, man, the car felt different. You know, I bolted everything back up. It seemed to feel better, maybe a bit more planted, but I don't know why that would be. But it did seem to feel that way. Shawnee's saying I have a diff brace and lower control arms. Yep. Definitely like the idea of lower control arms on these things. I just haven't put them on mine yet. White Knuckle RT saying, what up, bro? I got the 2 arms up. I like it. Saying, at my local track here in Canada, if you're running a power adder or a 1099 or quicker, you need a drive shaft loop or you won't pass tech. Man, that is a strict track. I like their, you know, adherence to, you know, to the safety portion of that. So, but that's interesting. Okay, cool. And yes, I have definitely thought about putting one in my car. Dr. Diff's hanging out with Dr. 440. R. Grossi saying, would you recommend a diff brace for a street strip 6-speed 392? Yes, I would. Minor bolt-on mods and unlocked and dialed up a bit. Yeah, I would say it'd probably do a good bit of help for you there. Yeah, especially with a 6-speed car, I probably will do you plenty of good. So now, which diff brace would I go with? Man, I would go with the latest performance diff brace. I like that one better for your car. The one that has its own bushing and all of that, I would go that route with yours because in a 6-speed car, you're going to be shocking it more than the automatic does. The automatic is more of a steady state load, whereas you're going to be harder on it on the launch and harder on it on the shifts than the automatic will be. So I would say spend the extra money, get the upgraded, the 2-piece brace from Performance, and I think you'll be a lot happier for it. God's Crank's coming in saying, what are your thoughts on carbon fiber drive shafts? I've seen a couple break on YouTube, and I think it's weird considering they're a strong material. Yes, it is a strong material, but it is brittle. It doesn't bend. It does have deflection, but it doesn't absorb shock the way that an aluminum shaft would. And I've also heard of them breaking. They're also, well, you got to remember, it's a resin. All right, so we're talking about a resin versus a metal in cooler temperatures, like really cold temperatures, could potentially be a bit more brittle as well. So again, just something to think about. Look, with the weight of these cars, if they were lighter by, say, 700 pounds, 800 pounds, you'd be able to get away with a carbon fiber drive shaft because you wouldn't be hitting it with as much load. But I think for these cars, for me, it's more based on weight. It's more based on load and the need to generate so much power just to create the initial torque to get the things moving in general. Carbon fiber, I don't think is really going to do you much good. I say go with one of the aluminum drive shafts if you're going to get one at all, and just go from there. It would be my suggestion. Sketspeed is asking, have you guys tuned any 1320s? 1320 is going to be the same as any 392 car. So if you tuned any 392, it's the same as tuning a 1320. No difference. I haven't seen anything on a tune for a 1320, but I can tell you that all the ratings are identical, and the ones that I've seen at the drag strip aren't turning any higher mile an hours than like a Scat Pack core on identical tire setups. So, yeah, the 1320s would be the same as tuning a regular 392. Let's see. DSRT saying, I pulled my drive shaft this weekend, repacked it with grease and sealed it. It was leaking CV grease. Glad I caught it before it was too late. Yeah, keep an eye on that. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to keep an eye on these shafts with CV joints for sure. Let's see. Shani saying, R. Grassi saying, right on. That was my thought too. Yep. Let's see. Shawnee is saying, I put a drive shaft and rear end brace in my 392 car. Oh, because I was launching my 6-speed Scat Pack at 5,500 RPM, but I didn't want to try to have to get a ride home or on the trailer. Good point on that one. Yeah, the 6-speed guys, you're going to be hitting that thing with a lot more shock than the automatics do. Let's see. Dr. Dip is still hanging out with Dr. 440. Rip is saying, Shawnee, we both still have the HO problem. I like it. Grossy's saying, right, most of my vintage Mopars were stick cars. Yep. Getting everything sorted out here. Rip. Let's see. Dr. 440, thank you for telling Dr. Diff. You'll hit him up. Scat Speed's got the thumbs up. I like it. Rip saying, not ho. Couldn't help it, man. Left it wide open on that one. Scat Speed saying, I didn't think it was worth trading my 16 Scat Pack for a 2019 1320. It's not. Trust me on that. Save your money, get a drag pack for the car, throw a tune on it, go out there and pick on some 1320s. Dr. 440 is saying that 5.7s and 6.1, the engines are still pricey. Yeah, they are definitely pricey. Talking about those engines being around 800 there. That's not too bad, not too far away from where we are here. But yeah, guys, so, like I say, the main thing on these drive shafts, and again, not to get too soapbox-ish, but I guess at the end of the conversation, what's the big takeaway here? Where do I stand with all this? Well, obviously, if it weren't for multiple Mopars, I'd be waiting on this yet other drive shaft to show up and give it a shot, see if it works. If it does, great. If not, wait for whatever, the case is, whatever the newest, latest, and greatest shaft is going to be. But with that being said, I guess I'll have to go back to what I was talking about earlier, what I was saying earlier. I don't know how these shafts made it out into the world. And again, if you've ever seen the angle of the dangle when you're looking down the middle of the car, I mean, the shaft, I mean, it's like this. I mean, it's like down and over when you're looking at it. So, you would think that a pair of CV joints would actually work with that. But again, you still have to be within some tolerance of angles, even for CV shafts to be able to work. I just don't know if they're going to be able to get there with a single. And I'd like to hope that they will. Obviously, that will keep the cost down. But with Red Eye and Demon drive shafts being then locked, it makes it really difficult for folks to get their hands on one. So, and they're expensive as hell, by the way. But the next best option is to go with the single drive shaft. And again, if you're just cruising the car around in town, not really taking it on any real long road trips, or at least when you are, you're not cruising at 80 miles an hour. Chances are you really won't have much of a problem. Keep the thing under 75 miles an hour and you probably will be okay. But that still comes with a host of other issues. And I think that host of other issues are issues that will create problems for you that can be pricey in the long run, potentially anyway. Not saying it's a guarantee, but there's the potential there. So I'm truthfully looking forward to getting the car to the drag strip with the Red Eye drive shaft to see how the car does, again, in the heat, in the humidity. And I have a feeling it's going to do just fine. And again, you know, right now the car is running 1050s with no extra timing, no race gas, no nothing. The car is just really solid the way that it was. I have a feeling it will probably still be doing the same next weekend. Let's see. Dr. Diff and Dr. 440 are chatting. White Knuckles asking, still no plans for a PCM tune yet? Man, look, okay, so yeah, I probably could. I could throw a couple of degrees of timing at the car. I could fatten it up and probably pick up a couple of, at the most, let's say a mile an hour and a half at the big end of the track. And it would be safe. It would be fine. I don't really see that being an issue. But for right now, no. That's not to say that I never will go in there and make a couple of tweaks and have a pretty solid PCM tune. But I'm really happy with the way that the car runs now. And I happen to know that it's going to be tough to rely on that tuning once the real low DA start to hit. I know that I know what I can get away with these cars. At least I know what I've learned that you can get away with these cars, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's, how do I put this? I wouldn't say that it's in the best interest for this car long term for me to start messing with that tune. Not because I don't think it would be safe, but I just don't think that I'll be able to get that much more out of the car. At least on 93 octane. Now, granted, if the track rental comes and I start running 10 teens, then yeah, I'm going to throw some timing at it, throw some fuel at it, and see if I can't cover a 9-second quarter mile pass on 93 octane, or at least get the car into the 10.0s. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I have to weigh the risk and reward of throwing more timing at the car and more fuel at the car. If it picks up just a little bit, yeah, I guess it's kind of a win. But again, it's got the 309 gear in it, and with the 309 gear in effect, I'm covering more than 130 miles an hour through the quarter already as it sits. And I don't have to throw any more timing at it. If I did and it starts to get into the 132, 133 range, great, but it's not going to be marketably any quicker at that point. So, you know, is it worth it? Chances are I'll end up doing it. If for no other reason, just to see what I can get away with. But I'll probably will be running race gas, though, and not 93. So, where most guys would run, you know, what I would do to the tune on 93, I'll probably run a mix of 50-50, 93, and 100 octane. Let's see. Symphonics is asking, is it possible for an LS3 vet to not have the harmonic balancer issue? I've got 70,000 miles on the clock, and I'm getting weirded out about it. Just keep an eye on it. Make sure that you stay on top of that. Dr. 440 is asking, saying around $2,000 for a 6.1. Is 6.1 worth it? That much better for a cool factor? It certainly is. White Knuckles asking, going to stick with the tires and the tune? So far, yes. Yes, with this caveat. I've actually thought about going to a set of Bravado rears, and that's only to take a little bit of the hit away from the 309 down low, and to possibly keep it from shifting into 6th at the end of the drag strip. But, I don't know, the jury's still a little bit out on that. Chaos of the Unicorns is checking in saying, off topic from Driveshafts, but what are your thoughts on the GT500 officially being a chunky, checking in at a hefty 4,225 pound curb weight? Not sure if you've talked about that. Curious. Yeah. Yeah. No more banter about the Hellcats being portly, I guess, anymore from the Ford camp. Kind of, you know, glass houses here, guys. Look, we'll see how much that weight really affects that car, if at all. But yeah, I have talked about it quite a bit, and you know, hell, I could go off just on that topic alone, but I'll leave you with this. I am not surprised at this stage with the GT500. What I mean by that is, okay, so they put a dual clutch style transmission in the car with questionable durability, at least from a public perspective, right? And it's this heavy. What, manual transmission couldn't handle the power that that thing makes? Man, Tremec is the company that developed the DSG. I know that they can make a manual transmission that can handle a lot more than what the GT500 is making, like a true third pedal manual. Yeah, automatics have been handling even more power than that for a long time. What's up with that? And you still get to pay a weight penalty for having a DSG. This is turning out to be a very bad look for GT500. So I'll tell you what, I'll just leave that at that. I need to keep moving forward, but yeah. Hothead's asking, do you have any plans on trading up to a red eye? No, I don't. Let me tell you why. Revlon is an early production 2014 build date Hellcat. November 20th is its birthday of 2014. It's an early model, early release. I love my Hellcat. And to be honest with you, the only thing that I'm going to get with a red eye is a slightly lower ET by a couple of tenths. Yeah, I could get one into the 9s, basically guaranteed. But I don't know. I'm having way too much fun with my Hellcat. If a red eye came along, I would recommend it to any one of y'all and to any of my friends and family. But I am very happy with my Hellcat, and I will stay happy with it, I think, for a long time to come. Dr. Div saying, Mason, what are your thoughts on what I ran the other night in the shakedown pass? It did pretty good, you think? Yeah, I mean, at low boost, to be in the 12s, that's pretty stout. You know, send me the data log, though. I do want to take a look at that. We need to do something about inlet air temperatures for sure. That's a problem right there. And realistically, if you're running a turbo setup, you really need to be in like the 8 to 10 pound range to truly start to take advantage of the efficiencies of that turbo, because without being in a truly efficient range of the turbo, you know, it's not like you're doing more harm than good. Obviously, it's going to make power, but it's just not going to, you're not going to be anywhere near living up to its potential. But for a shakedown pass, definitely some promising results, no doubt about it. Proton is asking, do the Hellcat Challengers have problems of lifters collapsing like other models? No, they don't. It's a little bit different lifter design, and actually it's the roller that ends up messing up on those lifters typically, and no, Hellcats do not have that issue. King Frankenstein saying, sup, man, I like it. Cool name, by the way. SRT Crazy, how you doing this evening? Doing good, SRT. BSC quite a few of the Gen 3 Challengers on Facebook, etc., with front splitters for handling, but wouldn't that slow it down if they ever wanted to run it down to 1320? Yeah, it does. I mean, wicker bills and the splitters and all that, it's all just adding drag for the most part. So yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot of help at the drag strip from those parts. David's saying all-wheel drive Hellcat. That would be sick to death. Scat Speed saying, hey, B. Mason, I forgot to mention I raced a 2012 Camaro ZL1 and I raced him from a 40 roll. I got him 3 out of 4 times. I was surprised. I'm not. Older ZL1s are great, but that Hemi's a little bit stronger than you might have imagined it looks like. Hey. Shawnee is checking out, saying, good night, B. I'm racing against a 6-speed 95 Mustang 347 Stroker with a Paxton this Wednesday. He's got more horsepower. The Hellcat's got more horsepower, but I'm 1,000 pounds heavier, but his car is a handful. That should be a fun race. Just work on the launch and let the car do the work, and I think you will surprise him roundly. He goes on to say Hellcat was born for the quarter mile, so I think I might be able to hold him off. I'll tell you what, he's going to have to do good on the big end to catch you. Because it will be him probably trying to catch you on the big end. King Frankenstein saying, recently I bought a Chevy LS3 engine to put into my Mercury Comet GT. You think it'll work? Oh yeah, there's plenty of guys doing LS swaps in the old, in older Mustangs. So yeah, it'll fit into a Comet just fine. David's saying nothing stronger than a Hemi. Hemis are pretty stout. LSs are pretty stout too, but they don't have to typically contend with the mass that these Hemis have to deal with. Grassi's saying, checking out, hitting the sack. Y'all have a good one. See you, B. Thank you very much, Grassi. I appreciate the contribution tonight, man. I really do. And have yourself a fantastic week, my friend. Gauze Junk's asking, I wonder why Dodge hasn't made an aluminum block 392 and 5.7. Well, you know, technically they've made some aluminum blocks just for the actual drag cars, the actual true drag pack cars, but I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a money thing. I don't know what the deal is there, but they're certainly not doing it, and everybody else is. So, you know, that's a bit of a tough nut to deal with. You know, just from the simple fact that you would think that Mopar would have done that, but then again, when you look at the total weight savings, I mean, we're really only talking about 100 pounds. Car's already a tank. I just don't see it really being that big of a difference at this time. Hey, Multiple Mopars is in. Ears must have been ringing, brother. I want to say thank you very much for the contribution. She is running smooth as silk, 100 miles an hour. Feels like she is sitting still. That's how NVH free she is at the moment. So, again, thank you very much for that, my friend. I truly appreciate it. Let's see. SRT Cat saying, I have my DSS drive shaft sitting in the living room waiting to be put in. The new DSS with both ends the same, with the vibration be extremely noticeable. Having second thoughts now. Man, I got to tell you, the newest version of that drive shaft, having the non-adapter version of the twin CV joint drive shaft might actually be the way to go. I'm not sure, and I can tell you this, I'm not taking this drive shaft out to find out. I say put it in and let us know how it does. I really wouldn't worry too much about it. If it is the one with the adapters, save your receipt, bro. That's all I can tell you, man. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but you know, a lot of guys have not been having issues with them. But again, it just depends on how you drive the car. And if you're in the car for any real length of time at any decent amount of speed, you may start to notice that it's got a bit more of a resonance and a vibration to it. There's no amount of dampening that's going to make that go away. And again, it all has to do with those angles, because again, you know, if this back here is the transmission, the angle is actually more like this. So, you know, and as opposed to that single dropping over, just the geometry is not working out, and that's why they have a tendency to vibrate. That's why these manufacturers are going to twin CV joints. You don't have to worry about phasing CV joints, but what you do have to do is at least have them somewhat in the same plane. And the way that these cars are, they're really not that way. That's why they went with a two-piece as opposed to a one-piece from the factory to begin with. So, let's see. But yeah, again, multiple Mopars. Thank you so much, brother. I truly appreciate that. Guys, I might have to check out soon. My voice is on its way out. Delio, what's up, Brian? Getting a check engine light code PO1C8. It's Sunday night, man. Tell me what Google that thing and tell me what the code is, because I cannot remember that one right off the top of my head. 1C8. Wait a minute. That's not the fuel pump. Is that the fuel pump code or fuel pressure sensor code? You can check that out. I can tell you how to work around it. I just can't remember what the code's for. For some reason, I've got it in my head. I don't think that's it, though. I don't think it's a fuel pressure code, but it might be. If it's that and you got a Hellcat, you will be replacing your fuel pressure sensor, which is a true treat, let me tell you. Dr. Div saying, what's up? Thanks for hooking us up. Absolutely, man. We all thank him for that. Fastidious, I like it, saying, I understand the 2018 and up Hellcats have ARP rods. Actually, it's ARP rod bolts is what they've got. Why did Dodge change them? Is this a weak link in the 15 to 17s? No, it's not a weak link. I think that's more, at least I haven't heard of any Hellcat snapping a rod cap or having anything egging on those engines. The only thing that will help it do is have a bit more stability at high RPM, and you're really not getting that out of these cars. Honestly, if you're spinning a Hellcat past, a stock Hellcat, if you're spinning it past 6,400, 6,500 RPM, there's just nothing to be gained that high typically anyway, especially with the NA cars, but Hellcats also. I mean, you're just not really getting too much. It's a diminishing returns really at that point. So not really sure why they went that route. Cool that they did. Maybe more marketing than anything else, but I haven't heard of any rods failing because of the cap bolts at all. Mopar is saying, I love Hemi and LSX. The Hemis are just true muscle cars from the factory, and you're very welcome, buddy. I appreciate it, brother. And yeah, the Hemis really are, man. And it's really the Hemi and what platform the car is that, just the look, the feel, the way that the cars drive, all of that. That's really more what the Hemi does well. And it's true. I mean, they are just an American muscle car engine. LSX, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. What can't that platform do? I mean, it's so well embraced by the aftermarket that you can literally build whatever your imagination will allow for it. So, yeah, we need a little bit better aftermarket support, but you know what? I think we've got pretty good aftermarket support for these Hemis. I've seen a lot of them making a ton of power, so... But I'm right there with you, man. I love them both. I've had them both, and I do love all of them. Riz Holler now saying, what up, Mopars? Proton's asking, any suggestion on better lifters for the SRT 6.1 Challenger? Hellcat lifters. Rip saying, how's everything going? Looks like Molten Mopar is saying, not much. All is well. Scatspeed checking in, man. Thank you very much for that contribution. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Contribution to the cause, man. I need it, man. Thank you very much. Molten Mopar is hanging out with Dr. Div, saying it was my pleasure. And again, that is Molten Mopar's old red-eye drive shaft in Little Miss Revlon now. And she loves it. Rip's saying, yeah, I need to check it out too. Hope you all have a good night. Also, right on what you did for Molten Mopars. That was good stuff, man. Yeah, it was awesome, man. I truly appreciate that. Fastidious is saying thanks. And Dr. Diff saying, what is next? Man, I got to tell you, we're going to have a little bit of fun with her the way she sits now. I can throw a little bit of timing at her, throw a little bit of fuel at her, make a safe enough tune, get maybe another tenth or so out of it, and maybe another mile an hour or so, and keep it very, obnoxiously safe. That's really more to the point with this car is to stay away from the more is better mentality, to try to be a bit more frugal with this car and to just see what we can get out of her on 93 octane, regular old Bucky's 93 octane, and not really try to throw the kitchen sink at this particular car. I really love driving this thing. It is a blast just to, play with, driving around on the street or whatever. And really throwing any more at the car the way that it sits now isn't going to be any more fun per se. Obviously, I'd love to have a whole, a whole another one sitting here and do more work to it, but I don't know that I would be happier with that. I really, really love driving this car. I love what, just the sounds, the noises, and the fact that, look, we're running mid-10s with a bunch of stock parts with barely a trans tune. Not too shabby, and I'd like to see just how far we can take that approach and just see how quick she'll really run. Holy shit. Quick break in the house. Rob Penn, man, I appreciate that. Saying, sorry, buddy, I've been out of pocket lately during the live chats. Here's a little love from Miss Revlon. Man, I truly appreciate that. Thank you very much, brother. Man, I certainly appreciate that. Means a ton. Means a whole lot. Those of you guys that don't know, he's got Quick Break's got a very well sorted, full bolt-on SRT charger that is drop dead gorgeous. So doesn't do too much of YouTube or any of the other social media, but take my word for it, that car is badass to say the least. So thank you very much, brother. I truly appreciate that more than you know, man. Thank you very much again. Let's see, Sky Speed's checking out. Rift is Rift's got the smiles. Man, I do appreciate that, Rob. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that again. Man, that's awesome. White Knuckles saying, you need to black out those side markers. Man, you think? Yeah, I agree with you. I need to put that just the light, just the light tint on there. But yeah, it is looking a little bit skittleish down there. Dr. Div saying, port your blower maybe? I don't know. I think it's pretty good the way that it sits, and quite honestly, porting the blower, I'm not going to get a whole lot out of that. So it works better with if you're really trying to turn it up, but porting the blower isn't really going to get me a whole lot the way the car sits now. Let's see. Best years for the Gen 3 Hemi, which ones are the most reliable? Anything 15 and up, but really anything naturally aspirated would be anything 17 or 18 and up are the most reliable. Those have the revised lifter design, and all that really is just the rollers have larger bearings, or the larger needle bearings. And then Rick is saying, I got me some blacked out side marker Hemi decals. Yeah, I need to get some of those. I had those on Shalandra. I had just the first stage, and I need to get those. You're exactly right. I probably should, because yeah, I definitely need to do that for but guys, hopefully that answers some questions for y'all. If you haven't seen the video that I posted on the drive shafts, definitely check that out. One of the things that I wanted to bring to light with this is, for you guys that have had questions with your Hellcat as to which drive shaft is the best, I would say anything that is a two-piece is going to be the best if you're not taking it to the drag strip. If you are taking your car to the drag strip and you can't get your hands on a Red Eye or a Demon drive shaft, and they're out there. I mean, if you search the forums, you might see somebody that has really hopped up their Red Eye or Demon and is looking to have upgraded their drive shaft. You may be able to pick that one up. But realistically, if you can't find one, yes, one of the one-piece drive shafts will work fine. And just know that there are going to be some issues potentially with that thing if you're going to be on long trips. And again, the angles, and I was taking pictures and sending them to a couple of buddies and just saying, look, have you ever wondered why that one piece doesn't work, and you're looking down one and this thing's kicked over and down and all that? Like, yeah, look at all the angles this thing's trying to make up for. It's little wonder that it isn't as bad or in worse than it actually really is with these one pieces. Let's see. Dr. 440 is saying, oh, wait, what am I missing? Dr. Div saying, I thought it was free and some time. You have a good night, brother. Always enjoy your show, man. Thank you, Dr. Diff. I appreciate you, brother. Always. Let's see. Dr. 440 saying, so the lifters can be upgraded on the older Hemis. Yes, they can. SRT 123 said, hey there, just a quick thank you for the great channel. Thank you very much for checking in. Said I copied your 392 build as you went, and I'm killing them out here. Oh man, perfect. I love hearing that. Keep it up, man. Keep me posted on your successes, man. I love hearing about that. Let's see. Symphonic saying, here's a link to the LS versus Coyote $15,000 challenge to finally watch. A lot of people saying they're Chevy biased. Love to hear your thoughts on the series. Yeah, shoot the link over, man. It didn't show up in here, so put it in the comments below. But guys, I'm coming up on 2 hours, and my voice is about to absolutely crash. I want to thank everybody for the great contributions y'all have given, generous contributions. It really means a ton to me. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic evening. I am hopefully going to have this car at the drag strip this Friday, out there just wailing on folks with a bunch of Mopar parts and a trans tune, so that's going to be awesome. Want to thank everybody who contributed tonight. Certainly want to send a big thank you out to Multiple Mopars. Again, if you haven't, go subscribe to his channel. Go check out everything that he does. You're going to love it. And again, that is a wrap on this one. Y'all have a great week. Adios.